Hello everyone, so welcome back to the video channel. So for today we will be tackling on my very first illustration on my second sketchbook, which is Tokyo Fine. This one is inspired by the America's Next Top Model photo shoot wherein they have paint all over their body. And this is a little bit tricky because there's a lot of colors going on. So I started out with the most basic skin tone, which is the flesh skin tone. Technically it's sienna, raw sienna, but it's really diluted. And yes, as always, I'm using the wet and wet technique so that I allow the colors to blend together. But on the shadow, I worked with burnt umber. So my base color is burnt sienna, then my first shadow casting is burnt umber, just to have that light and shadow casting off on the right spot, which is on the right side of the nose. On this particular portrait, I started off working with the eyes just to make sure that it will dry up immediately because the eyes is a little bit light to a darker tone. So as you could see, I started off with a very light brown shade, and I put on a black iris for it, but it blended out. But that's okay, it's a common mistake, but we could always wait for it to dry up and then we'll just cover it up again, just like what I'm doing right now. And then for the makeup part, which is really light, I only use a very simple, well diluted peony pink. And because if I put on a very, how do you say, a very deep blush on tone, it would definitely affect the paint on her face. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a real brighter pink, just a light touch of pink would do. And for the hair, it's more of a brownish hair, so I started off with the burnt umber shade, a completely burnt umber shade as my base tone, and I added a little bit of black afterwards to create a shadow effect that's casting off from the right side of the face. Now with this one, with the eyes, as you could see, for now it's not shiny or there's no any lightning that's sparkling off the eyes, which is fine. But on the final touches, I use a white gouache because a white watercolor pigment is so translucent that it just simply blends with whatever base color you have, and because it's translucent you can't see it. So in any of my eyes, in any watercolor, if you see there a white pigment, it's usually gouache or a white poster paint, but not really watercolor. So in this one, with our necklace, it's made of wood, so I use I use a burnt sienna for this particular area. And for when it comes to the lips, I use a purple hue, which is a little bit near the paint itself. So on her wrist, we are using another burnt sienna. I try to use as much as possible. I try to use limited palettes only, so that just to see how much I can go further with limited palettes. I love to push myself in creating more use and values coming from a different palette. So with this one, it was a very nice process and I love how it turned out. And since it's a sketchbook, I tried to put on the colors on the side just so I could remind myself what are the hues that I use, because usually with my sketchbook I usually transfer it to a canvas. So just want to showcase some of my art. This is the bald eagle that I made out from a charcoal sketch, and this one is my lion, and I'm so in love with this lion couple. So